That's Kevin Rudd there. Well, Triple J's Hack program have been testing Kevin Rudd's pitch with their young audience. Tom Tilley is the presenter of Hack. He joins us now from Sydney. Tom, good morning. How are you?
Very good, Michael. And Kevin Rudd's hunch was right. When we put that to our listeners yesterday, they said, yes, we are very disengaged with politics. We're sick of all the infighting that we've seen over the last 3 years in the minority government and also the infighting within the Labor Party. But the news also wasn't good for Tony Abbott. We actually did a Facebook poll yesterday and we had over 1,600 votes. And the main category that people voted for, and this was more than half the votes, was that the main thing was to keep Tony Abbott out. So very difficult for both leaders there really to engage young people.
Now, you've got some members of the young Labor Party faithful with you, Tom.
That's right, Michael. I'm here with three very faithful young Labor members, and I have right here Dominic Offner, who's actually the president of Young Labor. Now, Dom, do you think Labor have done the right thing this week?
Look, I think there's a big relief out there, particularly among young people that I've spoken to, that the issue of leadership has now been resolved.
We have heard that before, though, over the last few leadership, issues.
What there is now is a real sense of hope among young people that we can, and the Labor Party can win this election.
Have they lost hope before?
Julia Gillard and her Labor government have done some amazing things. The NDIS, the Gonski reforms, the price on carbon. We've got to make sure that those reforms are secured, that those reforms are locked in, and there's a real sense of hope that we can do that. And the best way of doing that is by re-electing a Labor government under Kevin Rudd.
But if her reforms were so good, why was she sacked as a result of that?
Look, I think that's there's been people and so many senior members of the government who've explained the very tough decision that they had to make the other night. I think that it's important that we move on from that and that we focus on getting on with the job of uniting, coming together and making sure that the Labor government is re-elected, that Tony Abbott does not become Prime Minister, because there's so much at stake in this election. And the group of people who had the most to lose if Labor loses and if Tony Abbott wins this election is young people. So that's what I'm committed to doing.
Let's speak to Penny Parker, and Penny Parker is the Women's Officer of Young Labor. Now, Penny, what message does it send to a young woman who's thinking about getting into politics, basically what Julia Gillard's had to suffer?
I think there's no denying that Julia Gillard has faced challenges that no one else has had to face before, and I think some of them, not all of them, but some of them are because she's a woman. But I think, just as she said the other night, it will be easier now for women coming after her to do really well, and I think that's something that she should be really proud of and that the Labor Party should be really proud of. And I think the biggest threat to women's representation in Parliament is an Abbott government, and we need to make sure we're in the best position to make sure that that doesn't happen.
If you were Penny Wong, what would you have done this week?
I think that's a really tough question. Luckily, I'm not a member of the caucus. I haven't had to make it. But I think I'm just glad, like Donna said, that it's resolved. And I think we should also be proud that we've had the first leader of the Senate as well, first female leader of the Senate.
We also have John Birrell with us, and John was very excited about the Kevin 07 campaign. John, do you still have that same zeal for politics that you had 6 years ago?
Well, look, it is a bit disappointing to see all this leadership speculation overshadowing a lot of really good stuff that the Labor Party's done over the last 5 and a bit years. Like these guys, I'm really glad that this is all hopefully behind us now and we can focus on beating Tony Abbott and, hopefully growing and developing a lot of that really good stuff that's already been done.
Have you lost faith in the Labor Party at all?
I definitely haven't lost faith. I think that there's, it is disappointing, but it's still the party, like Anthony Albanese said yesterday, it's the only party that's going to be able to deliver the best results for the country, and it's the only party that's really going to be able to make sure that justice and fairness are entrenched in Australia, and that people are, it's the only party that makes sure that, government plays a positive role in people's lives.
Well, there you go, guys. Still processing what has actually happened this week, but I guess a bit of a renewed sense of optimism amongst young Labor faithfuls.
And Tom, can you do something about that Sydney weather? It's awful.
It's crazy here. I mean, look at the fog over the buildings. It's pretty out of control, and it's been raining all week, and I guess it hasn't just been gloomy in Canberra for the likes of Julia Gillard, also for Sydney siders as well.
That's true.
There's your weather report, Michael.
Thank you very much.